Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. This is list 2 for the Shortcuts price list that will go out at 9 p.m. this Wednesday, the 19th of February at Sydney time, 9 p.m. sharp, Sydney time. If you would like to be on the price list in order to buy one of these records, then drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. This is the genre list. So I have funk, I have city pop, I've got jazz, I've got, what else? Country and soul. All right. There was a pretty obvious place to start. But before I get there, just as a reminder, I've got my first ever record fair Sunday, March 16th at the Hotel Staying in Manly. Starts at 11 a.m. Those of you who come early will be entered into a draw to win some free vinyl. And there'll be lots of vinyl sellers with all sorts of cool stuff at the event. Please tell your friends. Click on my little link on my emails and register your interest. If I can make this a success, then the Hotel Staying will do it every 3 months, which would be awesome. All right. There was only one place to start. I need to tell you a little story. About 3 months ago, I made an order from a record label in the US called Light in the Attic that I love very much. They've been going since the early 2000s, and they do represses of all sorts of obscure Americana, funk, soul, Japanese, jazz, as you're about to see, compilations. They're like, for me, they're like one of these labels that are just the ultimate crate diggers. They clearly do it for the love. And I got to learn about Light in the Attic from Vinyl Me Please because there were a couple of overlaps. So Light in the Attic released UFO by Jim Sullivan, and I got that record through Vinyl Me Please, and I saw the Light in the Attic logo. And so I got talking to one of their leadership team. His name's Josh, and I bought a bunch of records, and Josh sent them to me just after Christmas. They've arrived. They're awesome. There were some duplicates and some things that I had that I'm going to pass on to you all. I'll love this label. I cannot rave about them enough. Really deeply interesting records. I'm going to do a separate video on some of the ones that were in the box. There were 15, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here that will be up for grabs. Now, the first is one that I already own, and I'm going to show you why Light in the Attic are such a supreme. They exhibit the care and attention that appeals to me when it comes to reinvigorating some incredible works of art. The record I'm going to talk about is this. This is the sealed copy that's up for grabs. It's called They Say I'm Different by Betty Davis. So this is the package. I'm going to show you what's in it because I've got my copy right here, and I assure you it's going to blow your mind. It really is that good. But let's just reflect a little bit on Betty Davis. For a short while, Miles Davis's wife, and a massive influence on his transition from acoustic jazz to electric pioneering jazz fusion. His style, the way he comported himself, a lot of that he saw in his wife. She was and is a trailblazer. She's still alive, although not really into music. From a little bit of research I've been doing about the release series that Light in the Attic have done about Betty Davis, she's aware, she supports, but I don't think she's an active participant in any way. She is unapologetically raw, funky, sensual, challenging for sure, She's originally from North Carolina. She's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Um, she was way ahead of her time in terms of her attitude to her sexuality, to her standing as a woman, to what she offered. I just think she's incredible. Every record that she released is worth owning. I had her debut, Japanese first press of her debut, a week or two ago. I've got Nasty Gal coming up soon, Japanese first press. But I think this is my favorite of hers. I've never seen the Japanese pressing of this, but I don't need it because this Light in the Attic pressing is wonderful. So firstly, this is the sleeve. They've obviously got their own obi. It's a lovely gatefold, really nice kind of sheen quality. Now, let's have a look at what else is in here. So I'm just going to show you the record first. Firstly, it sounds great. It's on this kind of almost like a special Betty Davis label. The obvious care and attention is just amazing. I mean, it says Betty Davis the same different right across the middle of the label. It's got this, and I love this. This is, again, something that they probably influenced Vinyl Me Please on, but it's got listening notes. It's a 20-page booklet of lyrics and listening notes, photographs, images of this period in the mid-70s when she made what I think is unquestionably the greatest female funk album ever made, if not the greatest funk album ever made, full stop. They Say I'm Different is angry, it's confrontational, from the off, it's visceral. It is so, it commands your attention. And look at this poster that they've included in the package. I'm just gonna, I unfolded it specially. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So obviously that's come from the shoot of the sleeve, but it's a much more, she's kind of the power of that pose as opposed to the joie de vivre of that pose. That's just brilliant. Love it. I just think Light in the Attic smashed it, and I've only got one of these left. It's just an amazing thing. I mentioned that they've got a love of Japanese culture, and so the next three records are all Japanese music, Japanese compilations, Japanese jazz. So a few weeks back, I absolutely just waxed lyrical about Three Blind Mice, this absolutely majestic label from the 70s into the 80s in Japan. This is their most seminal record. This is Blow Up by the Isao Suzuki trio/quartet. There's some songs where there's three, some songs where there's four. Aquamarina, Everything Happened to Me, Blow Up, the title track, Like It Is, I Can't Get Started, and Low Flight. This is unquestionably the pinnacle of kind of Japanese jazz in terms of fidelity, audiophile attention to detail, and just the sheer joy and quality of the music. Now, you can see the Three Blind Mice label. What Light in the Attic have done is they have engaged one Bernie Grundman to go back to the original tapes and make these amazing represses. They were only released in Japan. They're starting to come into Australia on import. They're just amazing, beautiful things. Look at the obi. They absolutely replicated the obi from back in the day. Cannot rave about this enough. Hypnotic, unbelievably groovy. I cannot understand why this isn't on Spotify. He's so great from the second that he starts. So Isao Suzuki was a jazz bassist and cellist. And so underlying these songs are these grooves that sometimes sound a little bit like Paul Chambers, but for me, much more accessible, much more interesting. The Japanese first press of this is one of the highlights of my record collection. It sets you back way too much money. I think it's a very special record indeed. And I think it's great that Light in the Attic are going back and making these records so accessible, and the packaging just incredible. I got two more to talk about. This is something that they recommended to me. It is called Grey Skies by Taeko Ohnuki. Now, this is from 1976, and this Taeko Ohnuki is a Japanese city pop icon. But this is one of her kind of more early works. So this breezy, sophisticated pop. You can hear the just thoughtfulness and quality of the thinking that's gone into the arrangements. Very luxurious, a very thick, vibrant bass all the way through. It feels like a record you have on in the afternoon when you're having your second coffee. It is like a warm hug. And you know, again, if you think about what I just mentioned in terms of the quality of the packaging, it is on this beautiful, I'm just going to show you, this beautiful kind of translucent ivory vinyl on the Pan Am label. Valet, Light in the Attic, just wonderful stuff. I got one more to go, and then I am going to move on to something new. There's a series of these types of compilations. This one's called Pacific Breeze 3, Japanese city pop and boogie, 1975 to 1987. Look at that kind of play on the wave. So these compilation projects are, I don't know whether they were started by Light in the Attic or whether Light in the Attic have just embraced the concept, but they curate some of the most sublime and underappreciated tracks from the Japanese golden era of pop. They package them up beautifully. This one, this is a mix of kind of, having gone through some of these, there are some really deep cuts, really rare things that I can't even find on YouTube. And then there are a few that were clearly massive tracks in Japan that just didn't make it to the West at all. The sound quality of these things just constantly stellar. I just think they're just beautiful things. This particular compilation really influenced by the types of playlists that Japanese FM radio would play in the early 80s in particular. And so all these DJs from that era were involved in pulling these together. I love these passion projects. Just wonderful, wonderful stuff. Thank you, Light in the Attic. All right. Let's talk about a few different things. You all know how much I love the JBs. The JBs were James Brown's legendary backing band, renowned for tight, hypnotic, defining funk of the era, led by trombonist Fred Wesley. Features heavily Maceo Parker, and of course on bass, the incomparable Bootsy Collins. So you've got one of the great bands of the era, and they made a couple of studio albums, and this is their second. I think it might be the first time I've ever had it on a shortcuts list. Um, Hip hop sampled to death. This thing, you can have Watergate, just give me some bucks and I'll be straight, is a typical title. More Peas, Sucker, which is an absolutely incredible James Brown rant. It's just a fantastic thing. Just a quintessential tight 70s funk record, and a really nice counterpoint to Betty Davis, which was kind of hard edged um and confronting, whereas the JBs were just laid back and groovy and hypnotic and indulgent. Fantastic record. Please give it a listen if you haven't done so. The title track alone, worth the price of entry. It is 10 minutes of pure sonic honey. The whole thing recorded in a single day, legend has it. I am at a loss. Love them. All right, now I found out that I've got 2 copies of this record by mistake. And so this is always a beautiful thing, because I'm always happy to pass on things that maybe were under the radar of some of you, but are actually a really, really cool record. This is Everything's Beautiful by Robert Glasper and Miles Davis. Robert Glasper is a renowned kind of modern jazz luminary. Kind of mixes jazz, R&B, samples into something that's really quite soulful. And this record mixes in some kind of classic Miles Davis tunes with the Robert Glasper sonic palette. So you get this mix of past and present of an iconic Miles Davis sample, but supplanted into a new world with maybe a vocalist over the top, or someone like who's the most famous on this particular record? Let's see. Erykah Badu, for example, on Maisha So Long. Stevie Wonder is on the final track, Right On Brother. Laura Mvula is on the opening track of side 2. I look at this record got nominated for multiple Grammys. It's really, really cool. If you like kind of atmospheric, almost soundtrack type sound collages that are really groovy and trippy, then this thing has got something for you. And there are certain parts of the record where you can actually hear Miles Davis talking to you as if he's conversing with you, which for someone like me, he's a total Milesophile. It just makes me feel good to hear his voice. All right, now for someone completely different, who actually does make soundtracks as opposed to records that sound like soundtracks. That is Melvin Van Peebles, revolutionary black filmmaker, playwright, musician, songwriter, known for very bold and unapologetic and at times downright strange depictions of black life in America. And, I guess has his detractors as well as his fans. But this is his kind of swing for the fences with a Broadway style, almost stage musical. Look at these images on the inside. It's a soundtrack that mixes gospel, blues, soul, written word, spoken voice. It's razor sharp social commentary, very typical pointy Melvin Van Peebles political viewpoint. The whole album is like a you're on a journey. I put it like that, and it's very unconventional, and you can hear the characters talking to you as well. It's very, very cool. Double LP, and there's all sorts of books and bits and pieces as part of this. I think this is a US first press. We're gonna have to double check. I'm pretty sure it came out on the Stax label too. Let me just double check. Yes, look. So there's the original yellow Stax. Pretty sure it's American first press. Very cool, very different, and therefore worthy of being on a shortcuts list. All right, I'm gonna go quickly. The Japanese did amazing job of reggae compilations. So this one features Zap Pow, the Wailers, Jimmy Cliff, Toots and the Maytals singing Funky Kingston, and also Louie Louie, the Heptones, Lorna Barnett. And they all sound great. They do a wonderful job of pulling together obscure tracks and making them sound really good. Now, this is one of my favourite Vinyl Me Please releases. There's the art print that comes with this. But the Silvertones were a Jamaican vocal jazz trio. This was released in 1973. Very kind of rare groove, deep melody type, social conscience reggae. Really pleasing to the ear, full, rich sound. Definitely accessible, one that the whole family can enjoy. And the Violently Pleased, I've done a brilliant job of this. This is still sealed. It's got listening notes and all sorts, and it's just great. If you love rock steady or any of those amazing sounds of the 70s from Jamaica, then you're in for a treat. Okay, this is pretty special. My only box set tonight. This is the box set of all three of the albums that Art Blakey recorded at the Paris Club Saint-Germain. I can't remember what year. I think it was 58, maybe 57. This is the booklet that describes everything. And here are the records. All three are in fantastic condition. All mono. Let me just quickly show you. They come in these red sleeves. I'm not going to pull them all out because I just want to make sure it stays in pristine condition. These box sets are really, really rare and lauded after. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers were probably one of the great live bands during this period, and it features many of the tracks that ended up on Moanin', which a lot of people think is the greatest hard bop album of all time. You can hear the French crowd in the background. You can really hear that it's a cloud scene or like a little club scene. It's just great. And you can also hear moments when Art Blakey breaks a drumstick and just keeps playing and the crowd go absolutely just nuts. Okay, I'm conscious of time. I've got two more to go. I have the Japanese first press on the, look at that old blue Atlantic label. Just amazing. This is Testifying by Clarence Carter. Clarence Carter from Alabama. Rich baritone voice, supercharged guitar, southern soul blues, just beautiful psychedelic sleeve. Snatching It Back was probably the biggest hit. It kind of got into the top 5 on the soul charts. A really warm analog mix. Highly, highly recommended. And finally, look, those of you who've been watching my videos, you know how much I love Chris Christopherson. This is his second album, the wonderfully titled The Silver-Tongued Devil and I. It's a gatefold on the original Monument label in lovely condition. It's just a wonderful record. Good Christian Soldier breakdown. Loving Her was easier than anything I'll ever do again. From top to tail, one of the greatest country albums of all time. I think that first run of 3 or 4 Chris Christopherson albums, from the self-titled through this, through Border Lord, they're as good as it gets. There you have it. Country, soul, jazz. What else do we have? Fusion, funk, city pop. This is why you gotta love Shortcuts. All of those are for sale. If you would like to be on the list, drop me a note, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Like, comment, all the usual business. I hope you found or saw something new to enjoy and appreciate. And as always, love.